But no film, in fact, no multimedia event, I think, should be used ultimately as a substitute for simply good teaching. It can be used as a supplement, it can be used as a complement. And what I think can make teaching history easier and more interesting is to go back to, as Tim suggests, is at least to some degree, the essence of this teaching American history grant, which is the ability of somehow showing the students how documents, how texts can in fact create a way to understand history and also to make it, in a sense, live. In ways that simply a history book, which provides, depending upon what text you use, depending upon who wrote it, only one interpretation. So as a result, one of the things that I do is to ask questions that force them to find answers, but answers that are by no stretch of imagination. There's not a single answer to any question. And if you take that particular principle and apply it to the last of the Mohicans, for example, to the destruction especially of Fort William Henry, the number of answers you receive are going to be so many. You're going to, as Mark Twain would say, need a defining rod to find the truth. For example, what exactly happened at Fort William Henry in August of 1757? What happened to those who surrendered to the Marquis de Montcalm, the French? Did they survive? Was there in fact a massacre on the level of what Cooper describes in The Last of the Mohicans, on the level of what Michael Mann described? These are questions that if you go to the internet and look up Fort William Henry, you will get a series of answers. And yet you will discover that every time you go to a different source, you'll get a different set of answers. And that's simply because no one knows the answer, or everyone who has an answer bases that answer upon something that appears to be factual but isn't. As historians and teachers of history, you're probably very much interested in reading contemporary accounts of events that occurred. Several months ago, back in December, my wife and I came over to Circle Cinema to look at Hyde Park on Hudson, which of course is one very interesting but very small interpretation of FDR and his cousin, with whom he apparently had an affair. There have been books written on it, and now we have a film about it. There are other books that I just read just in the last several months. A couple by a woman named Lynn Olson, who wrote the Murrow Boys, which was the story of Edgar R. Murrow and his days in London during the Blitz. One of her books was called Troublesome Young Men. And it was a story of all of those British citizens who, in the days leading up to and following the beginning of the invasion of Poland by Hitler, attempted to convince British leaders that they should support Churchill, not Chamberlain. She also wrote another book called Citizens of London, about three young men who were responsible for convincing FDR to support Churchill in the war. Now, all of these books address issues that have been talked about before in a variety of ways, but each one of them provides us with a revised version of those events, and as a result, only one interpretation. History is, as you know, something that can be continually revised over and over. Now, what about the documents? And by the way, don't let me natter for the next 60 minutes. If you have a question, if you want to contradict